This video covers everything we did in class today on Friday, January 21st in 7th grade math. The first thing we did was take our foundations quiz, and so I just went ahead and put that in slide 1 of Class Kick for you. So please start by pausing this video and completing your foundations quiz. Okay, if you need more time to do the foundations quiz, please pause the video. I'm going to show you the most important parts from today's lesson. Today's learning target was I can multiply two negative numbers, which we started yesterday. If you were absent yesterday and you haven't watched that video yet, please go back to the Thursday folder first. I'm going to have you skip 9.1, and we're just going to focus here on 9.2, because that's the most important part of today's class to review. 9.2, backwards in time. A traffic safety engineer was studying travel patterns along a highway. She set up a camera and recorded the speed and direction of cars and trucks that passed by the camera. Positions to the east of the camera are positive, and to the west of the camera are negative. Go ahead and pause this video and underline key information in this question. So I want you to pause the video and underline key information. So there's a few notes here that are especially important, but one thing that I want to point out is that positions to the east of the camera are positive and to the west of the camera are negative. And this is a whole lot like the number line that we drew out in class yesterday, where we saw that when we were moving into the positive or right, we were moving east. And when we were moving into the negative or left, we were moving west. And so here are some positions and times for the car. We can see that at -3 seconds, the position is -180 feet. And so what that means is that before the camera, as she's moving towards 0, she has a negative position in time because the time hasn't started yet. She's not yet at 0,0 when she started recording. But we can tell that she's moving east or she's moving left. And the reason is because as time passes, our numbers are moving in the positive direction. And so we know that this car is traveling east because numbers are moving in the positive direction. Now, this question that says, what is its velocity? Remember, velocity is just speed with distance. And so velocity we can calculate by finding the feet per second. And in this case, we don't even need to calculate the feet per second because we can see in the table that after 1 second, she's traveled 60 feet. And that's this row in the table here that just tells us the unit rate right off the bat. 60 seconds, she's gone 1 feet. And so when the time is 0, that is when the car passes the camera. Time starts when the car is at the camera. And before the camera, the time is negative. And that's what it means when the time is 0. And so this is kind of an introduction to the situation that we'll be using to think about the next couple of questions. So go ahead and pause this video if you need to get these down, and then we'll talk. All right, if you haven't finished questions 1 and 2, you can pause. Otherwise, here's slide 4. So question B says, what does it mean to have a negative time? And we kind of covered that in the answer to the last question, which is that's the time before the camera starts moving. I want you to go ahead and try question 3. Here are the positions and times for a different car whose velocity is -50 feet per second. So we can see that after 1 second, moving -50 feet. So go ahead and pause this video and give question 3 a try. So we know that after 1 second, the position of this vehicle is -50 feet. And so if you can imagine that on a number line right? We have 0. And then after 1 second, the car is at negative 50, right? After 2 seconds, the car is at negative 100. And so we know that this car is moving left because we can see that the position is changing in the negative direction. And so at negative 1 second, 1 second before the car reaches 0, we know that the position of the car is going to be 50. And then at negative 2 seconds, so 2 seconds before the car reaches 0, we know the position will be 100. And 3 seconds, it'll be 150 because again, it's moving 50 feet per second, but it's moving left. It's moving towards the west. We know the car is moving west. And the reason is because as time passes, the location is getting more negative. Now, your last step today is to complete the table. And in the table, you'll see several different situations where there's a velocity and there's a time. And the first situation is one we saw yesterday where the velocity is 25 and the time is 10. And we knew that we could multiply velocity times time, which equals distance, right? Just like distance equals rate times time. And we can use that formula to complete this table. We're multiplying velocity times distance. Go ahead and pause this video and try question 4. You should have given 4 a try on your own. I want to talk about car G. Car G has a velocity of negative 15 meters per second. And so if you imagine that number line from east to west, we know that car G is moving west, right? And we know that the car is moving west because it's moving in the negative direction. But the time for this car is negative 8 seconds before the car passes the camera, which means that the ending position is going to be somewhere over here in the positives. And the reason is because the time is before it passes the camera and it's moving west. And we can solve this the same way we would solve any other question that we've seen so far. We can multiply velocity times time, 15 times 8. This is, of course, negative 15 times 8, and it is a positive 120. And the reason it's positive is what I just drew on the number line, which is that we know that at negative 8 seconds, the car has not yet passed 0, but it's moving west in the negative direction. And so when the time is negative, the position is still positive. And so the key takeaway from today, what I had everyone repeat over and over again at the end of a class, is that a negative times a negative equals a positive. When we multiply 2 negatives, that is equal to a positive. I would like you to pause this video and try questions 5 and 6. All right, so you should have given question 5 and 6 a try. The next thing that you can do is you can practice 9.4, which is the rational numbers multiplication grid. This question is optional, but I'll post the answer key here in the main folder. On slide 6 and 7, you'll see a summary of today's lesson that I recommend you review. The last thing we did in class today was work on our study guide for the benchmark test, and you can find that in Delta Math. If you have any questions about anything in this video or what you need to work on, please make sure you send me an email.